Matt James says his new book is going to go even deeper than The Bachelor and reveal untold stories from his time on the show. Hey guys, and welcome back to another shared news. We've got all you need to know on what we can expect with Matt James' upcoming book. But before we get into it, make sure you guys are subscribed to our channel and ring the bell so you never miss out on any future videos. As always, I'm your host, Zachary Reality, joined by the lovely Fiona Zaring. Fiona, Matt's book is called First Impressions, Off-Screen Conversations with a Bachelor on Race, Family, and Forgiveness. So I'm wondering, what are your thoughts when you heard Matt is writing a book? This title, is it juicy enough? Do you want to read it? What do you think is going to go down in this book?
Well, it feels like the latest hip thing to do if you're a bachelorette alum is put out a book. So I definitely wasn't shocked. And the more I thought about it, right? Matt James's season led to a reckoning in the Bachelor franchise, right? Like it is the
True.
events that went down on Matt's season, his relationship with Rachel Kirkconnell that had Chris Harrison talking about it, that led to his replacement, right? Like it just spiraled so far out of control into a brand new chapter for this franchise. And we haven't actually really been able to hear his perspective on all of that, let alone what was going on behind the scenes. So I do actually think this is going to be interesting. The only reservation I have is he really going to be able to go there? Like, does he still have NDAs? How
Mm.
in depth is he actually going to be able to give us? But I want to believe that he's really, having the freedom to tell a story. So, totally interested in hearing his take.
Yeah, I mean, you bring up a good point. His season was probably the most controversial season of all time. There was so much buzz around his season, and it was such a big scandal, not only with Rachel and him, but then it's also like he was the first Black Bachelor. And then it was also like this was the season that took down Chris Harrison, who hosted the show for 2 decades. Like there was a lot to unpack in this season, and Matt was there behind the scenes dealing with it all as someone who has never been on the show before. This season was his season, and it was the first season he was ever on as the Bachelor. He wasn't on Bachelorette, he never did Paradise. So it's like he really got thrown into this mix. He wasn't a famous reality star or anything. So there is a lot for him to say. But I also agree with you. We don't know what's going on with these NDAs. He filmed his season of The Bachelor a year ago. It aired earlier this year, and then he was on Dancing with the Stars. So my reservation with this book is that it's a little too premature and he might not be able to actually spill all of the tea or share his full side of the story. And it's also just so recent.
Mhm.
So, like, I'm a huge Matt James fan, but I just feel like this book came out a little earlier. Like, maybe if it came out in like a year from now or 2 years, it would be a little bit more like, what is he going to say? And he's definitely going to talk about his relationship with Rachel. And this is what Matt says about the book during an interview he did this week at an Amazon live party in New York City. He says, "There's a lot that needs to be shared, but I want a chance to share a little bit more of who I am and put context to a lot of the things that scratched the surface." Now, Fiona, I want to ask you because a lot of people thought that Matt was a really boring lead. People just thought he was so boring, so bland on his season. Do you think because of all of this like stuff that we just mentioned, there's all this curiosity, there's all this interest, do you think that's enough for people to buy the book and want to read it, even though a large portion of Bachelor Nation thinks he's just boring?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a really good point. I think that people who buy this book might honestly be buying it more for the tea that doesn't have to do with Matt, but for what he may
Uh-huh.
or may not be able to reveal about it. I thought he was an okay bachelor. Like, as you were saying that, I was trying to think back, like, how did I feel about Matt as the season aired? I liked him, but I definitely don't think he's the best we've ever seen. But I do think that even with that opinion, I am really curious about what he has to say. I just wonder, is it going to translate into book sales, right? Or is it going to translate into lots of clicks for the people who do read the books and write those, 5 things you need to know, 10 things you need to know, biggest bombshell
Uh-huh.
articles? Like, is it going to translate to clicks? Or is it going to translate to actual book sales, people who are willing to sit down and read his story from start to finish? Only time will tell, but I definitely think his diehard fans will be getting this book and reading it cover to cover.
It's gonna sell out regardless. Maybe it won't sell as much as Hannah Brown's book or Tyler Cameron's book, who also just came out with books, but Matt's book is going to sell. I mean, anyone that goes on The Bachelor, your book is going to sell. And I like the point you made earlier when you said everyone from Bachelor Nation is writing a book. You know, Maddie Prue from Peter's season just came out with a book. Hey, Peter just came out with a book. He came out with a children's book. So much Bachelor books. Fiona, if you had to read one of these books, and be honest with me, who do you think it would be? Would you read Hannah's? Would you read Tyler's, Matt's, Maddie's? Like, what is one Bachelor book you would want to read the most out of all of these?
It's tough because as you're saying that, I'm like, I don't know if I actually want to sit down and read any of them, but I
If you
think
had to.
as much as I love no, and I'm with you. As much as I love Hannah Brown, I think she's adorable. As much as I think Tyler Cameron, his take on dating advice might be interesting, right? I think it would be Matt's. Like if I was going to sit down and read someone's, I feel like his story or what he may be able to, give us some more context on from the crazy time that the franchise went through. That is, I think, the most interesting to me out of all of them, especially if he's able to really go there, right? Like if the reviews of this book are like, wow, like this is so juicy, new take, new lens to look at the franchise through, like my interest will be piqued. I'm gonna want to see what he has to say. So I'm gonna give it to Matt, I think.
Okay. I mean, I love Matt, so I think I'll definitely be checking out his book. I also think Hannah's book will be really interesting because she was arguably the most popular bachelorette of all time. She is the most followed bachelorette or person from The Bachelor of all time. If not, it's Tyler Cameron. Those are like the top two. So I think all these books are juicy. Honestly, Bachelor fans, stop complaining about the too much of books. There's some juicy tea here, and it's a lot of fun stuff to just talk about. And I'll be interested to hear what Matt says about his relationship with Rachael because we know what happened on The Bachelor. They did not get engaged on the show, which I thought was a little interesting that he already decided that he just wanted to leave boyfriend and girlfriend. Do we think he's going to get into that, Fiona? Like, I want to know what his reasoning was. Do we think he had an inkling? Was he just not ready to get engaged? Like, I want to hear him touch on why he decided not to propose to Rachael because he missed out on this Neil Lane diamond ring. Like, don't you think?
Yeah, I definitely think that that is interesting. I feel like what Matt learned about himself on his season was that as much as he wanted to, start a new chapter of his life, be engaged, be in a serious relationship, he had a lot of self-reflecting to do. If you remember, we, saw that very personal moment between him and his father. And I feel like it'll be interesting if he is willing to open up about this, like being someone who wasn't a contestant on a previous season think he went into this journey with a different lens than maybe other leads have. It wasn't necessarily about, the getting down on one knee, the getting the free engagement ring. I think as he found himself going through this process, it was sort of about more of like his own self growth. And so it will be interesting to hear like when push came to shove, what made him decide in the moment, I could see myself getting married to this person, right? I could see myself being in a successful relationship with this person, but I don't want there to be an engagement ring on her finger as we figure this out. What tipped the scales? Hopefully, he's willing to get into that because I'm with you. It'll be really interesting. I don't think we've really heard from him too like much details as to why until now.
Yeah. Because I'm just like putting two and two together. After the final rose was very heavy for everybody involved. And I'm just like, do we think Matt had an inkling that something would happen? Because it would be so much more of a scandal if they did get engaged and he had to take the ring back after the final rose. So I want to hear more about his thought process on why he decided to not get engaged. Like, did him and Rachel possibly have a conversation during the overnight date when it wasn't filmed? About the fact that some of this stuff can't come up and like what was Rachel's growth after the show because he said on After the Final Rose that he needed her to do the work before he was able to get back with her, and then a month later they were already spotted together by paparazzi. They were in Santa Monica, they were traveling together to New York, to Florida. So I just want to hear more about how they were able to get back together and After the Final Rose. Like, there really is a lot to unpack here, and I don't know if he's ready to fully share all of that since it literally hasn't been a year since this all happened. So that is what I'm most intrigued by. Fiona, what do you think you're most intrigued by about this book? Because there's the Chris Harrison angle, there's his family angle, the stuff with Rachel behind the scenes of being the Bachelor, him being the first Black Bachelor. There is a lot of coverage here. What do you think is like most catching your eye here on all of these things he's going to discuss?
Well, I definitely really do agree with you, right? Because the Rachel Kirkconnell of it all, the timeline of how they broke up, how they got back together, who she is behind the scenes. Like to this day, they haven't really shared too much of that with us. And obviously, the direct fallout from that is, the Chris Harrison of it all. So I think it's going to be really interesting to hear how he and her, together as a team were able to navigate through all of this. I remember when we were covering this, as it was breaking, thinking these bachelor couples who go on the show, fall in love, get, engaged, see how it goes, have a hard enough time dealing with the pressure of all of the outside interest in their relationship when it's not Matt James and Rachel Kirkconnell, and when
Yeah.
the 20-year host of the franchise isn't on his way out as a result of, you being in the public eye. So I think that I really didn't give them a lot of credit in the early days. I didn't think they were going to be able to navigate this pressure, navigate all of the intense and heavy conversations surrounding their relationship. So the fact that they were able to do that and are now, honestly, I think one of the couples a lot of people have a lot of confidence in this franchise. I want
They
to know
seem
how
really
they got
happy.
there. I want to know how they did it. Yeah, they seem incredibly happy. So I want to know more about that, how they built the solid foundation, that they have as a couple today, because it's not easy to do. And honestly, they did it in some of the toughest of circumstances. So I really hope he tells us about
Yeah.
that relationship.
Because he has to touch on it, and I feel like he doesn't want to make her look bad because he loves her. It's his girlfriend, but he also like has to address these heavy subjects, and that's why my reservation is like, is it too soon? Like these heavy subjects just happened less than a
Mhm.
year ago. He's going to address them in a book. Like he has to address everything that happened and why he got back with her. So it's just going to be interesting to hear what he has to say about that. If you want Matt and Rachel updates, follow them on Instagram. They are always together, always posting, trying different foods together. They look like they have a really happy and healthy relationship. I love following them. I'm a huge fan of Matt. I think they're awesome. I think they're happy. So I just want to know how he was able to work through the things with Rachel. And what do we think Rachel's going to think about this book? Do we think Rachel was involved in this book at all? Do we think she was like, don't say this, maybe say this? Like, do you think Rachel could possibly have an excerpt in the book? Because I would love to hear if she had like a chapter or even just a few pages just to hear her perspective as well.
Yeah, I mean, it would be really cool if he, sort of transcribed like what some of those conversations between the two of them look like, because throughout all of this, right? I mean, she plays such a big role. And I also think that, she has been able to say her piece. She obviously released statements back in the day. She did that Instagram
She did.
video, to share with
Video.
fans sort of her perspective, show people where she's coming from, prove to people, that she's put in some work and that she is an evolved person. But I do think that there's a lot of Rachel Kirkconnell's story that we haven't heard, right? And I think a lot of
Yeah.
fans are using her as an example of someone who in the public eye was able to prove that they're more than some of their worst moments, right? But we haven't been able to hear her side of the story since she kind of was able to present herself in a new light to the public. I think a lot of fans are following along with her relationship. They're happy to see her happy. They're happy to see that she's evolved, but they don't know what that process looked like. So I'm with you. If there was a Rachel, essay or excerpt or chapter or forward or,
Put
like
it in
prologue,
there.
whatever they could slip in there, I would be interested to read it. And I do think that one thing she's proven since she and Matt have got back together, even just through being through his side through the Dancing with the Stars process, she's super supportive of everything she does. So I definitely think she was involved in this book process.
Yeah, I mean, she can write her own book, so maybe she will in a couple of years as well. But you guys can pre-order Matt's book now. First impressions, off-screen conversations with the Bachelor on race, family, and forgiveness. And let us know in the comments what you guys are most excited for in Matt James's book. If you guys are going to be reading it, and if you're not going to read it, let us know in the comments which other Bachelor book you have read or you're going to read. We got to start a book club in these comments because there's a lot of good ones that have just came out and that will be coming out. So let us know and make sure you guys are subscribed to our channel and ring the bell so you never miss out on any future Bachelor updates. As always, I'm your host, Zachary Reality, joined by Fiona Zaring. You guys can follow us down below and come talk all about The Bachelor and other things with us. Thank you guys all so much for watching, and we will catch you next time. See you later.
Bye.